They didn't ask for much, just a few ships, maybe a handful of troops to help hold the line. The Virellans were proud, advanced, and desperate. Their enemy, the Kareth Horde, wasn't just winning, they were erasing civilizations. When the Galactic Council turned its back with polished speeches and vague promises, the Virellans turned to Earth. They expected diplomacy, maybe a symbolic gesture. What they got was something the galaxy would never forget. The humans didn't send peacekeepers, they didn't negotiate or stall. Within days, entire fleets were mobilized. Planets once lost were reclaimed in hours, and when Earth's juggernauts, their towering, terrifying war machines, descended on the Kareth strongholds, even the most battle-hardened aliens watched in stunned silence, because humans don't believe in half measures. When they answer a call for help, they bring shock and awe. A desperate transmission. The message was intercepted in low-orbit Earth relay stations at 0342 UTC. It came encoded in 11 different protocols, none human. Initial analysis by the Deep Signal Analysis Division confirmed it originated from a Virellan diplomat ship, transmitting in a loop across galactic bands for hours. Requesting aid. Emergency priority. This is High Commander Tarsil of the Virellan. Dominion. We are under full assault by the Kareth Horde. Fleet decimated. Civilian populations in retreat. We request support. Any support. It wasn't the first distress signal Earth had received from an alien species, and it wouldn't be the last. But this one was different. The Kareth weren't just pirates or rogue warlords. They were a militarized species, ruthless, well-organized, and fast. In under 3 cycles, roughly 11 Earth days, they had overrun 5 Virellan colonies and destroyed 70% of their standing fleet. The Galactic Council had convened emergency meetings, issued sanctions, and of course, released statements expressing deep concern. But concern doesn't stop kinetic bombardment, it doesn't shield cities or return abducted children, and it certainly doesn't fight wars. Earth's response wasn't diplomatic, it was military. Understanding the stakes by 2067, Earth was no longer a fractured planet with divided borders. The discovery of stable Alcubierre drive technology and the establishment of the Terran Coalition Defense Network had turned Earth into a serious force in the galactic balance of power. But despite this, humans were still considered young in the galactic hierarchy. The older races, like the Airax, Yultari, and Virellan, often regarded Earth with polite detachment. Earth was capable, but unpredictable, admirable, but unconventional. What many forgot, or failed to understand, was that humans were forged by centuries of internal conflict. Unlike most species who learned peace before spaceflight, humans had carried their tribalism, nationalism, and military innovations right into the stars. But when united under a shared threat or cause, they became something else entirely. The Virellan message was received, decrypted, and forwarded to Earth's Coalition Command in less than 4 minutes. It didn't take a day of debate, no Senate hearings, no delays. General Cora Rivas of the Earth Defense Directorate stood in the war room and issued only 4 words: mobilize the 7th Fleet. Deployment begins. The 7th Fleet, stationed in deep orbit near Saturn's Lagrange Point 2, was Earth's rapid response and heavy strike force. It comprised 44 vessels, 3 Dreadnought-class carriers, 7 cruiser-class destroyers, and 2 of Earth's most advanced orbital artillery platforms, the Lancers. Their mission profile was blunt: assess the Virellan situation, establish superiority, and neutralize the Kareth advance. Within 12 hours, human vessels folded space across 3 sectors and emerged in Virellan-controlled systems. The first arrival was the ESS Triumph, an interstellar supercarrier capable of deploying over 20,000 ground troops and 1,400 unmanned drones. What they found was worse than expected. Virellan outposts were either smoldering or entirely sterilized. Their orbital defenses, elegant and advanced by Virellan standards, had been ripped apart. Kareth shock troops were unlike anything Earth had previously encountered. Tall, armored, operating in tightly coordinated clusters, and biologically resistant to most chemical suppressants. but they weren't ready for humans. The first strike. The first engagement occurred above the former Virellan colony of Luzon Prime. Kareth forces were in the process of encircling the last Virellan evacuation transports when Earth's orbital Lancer cannon deployed a tungsten rod from low orbit, striking the ground at Mach 17. The shockwave obliterated the entire Kareth command post in a single blast. No nuclear radiation, no lingering damage, just sheer kinetic energy. Moments later, drop pods rained from the skies. The 103rd Orbital Infantry Division, known across Earth forces as the Screaming Void, touched down and began urban sweep operations. Human soldiers operated in 12-man squads, supported by autonomous drone units and heavily armed reconnaissance bikes. They didn't just push the Kareth back. They broke their formations, disrupted their comms, and turned their own tactics against them. Within 48 hours, Luzon Prime was back under Virellan control. High Commander Tarsil, still reeling from the speed of the counter-offensive, made an unscheduled broadcast to the Virellan government. The humans have arrived, and the Kareth are retreating. Shock and awe-defined human military doctrine had evolved beyond the traditional models. Borrowing from Cold War-era U.S. strategies and 21st-century asymmetric warfare lessons, Earth's strategy emphasized overwhelming power at speed. Not just force, but spectacle. Kareth ground forces encountered plasma burst artillery that dissolved tank armor in seconds. EMP grenades shorted out their exosuits mid-stride. Psychological warfare units used Kareth audio channels to replay their own dying screams across all frequencies. Every engagement ended the same way: decisive, brutal, and fast. The galaxy had long relied on slow-moving negotiations, fleet posturing, and economic pressure. Earth found these inefficient. Why blockade a system when you could end the conflict with precision orbital bombardments and surgical special forces raids? This wasn't cruelty. This was clarity. The Kareth wanted to dominate by fear. Humans just responded more effectively. Turning the tide after 2 weeks of non-stop engagements, Earth forces pushed the Kareth back into their own territory. The Virellans, watching in awe, began to rearm and rejoin the offensive, learning human tactics along the way. A combined strike force of human and Virellan ships assaulted the Kareth border stronghold of Grol Thaxis, a heavily fortified moon once considered impenetrable. Human engineers hacked orbital defenses before the main fleet even arrived, using microdrones to disable thermal sensors. Virellan ships provided long-range bombardment, while Earth's stealth fighters slipped past defenses and detonated seismic charges within key fault zones of the moon's crust. The resulting collapse sent half the fortress into a molten chasm. In the aftermath, Kareth survivors transmitted a single message to their high command: "They don't fight for glory, they fight to end us." 7. The turning point. Despite their initial arrogance, the Kareth began negotiating retreat. Not because they feared death, they were bred for war, but because they could not understand the human approach. Human soldiers didn't scream in battle. They didn't chant or roar. They communicated with gestures, operated under decentralized leadership, and adjusted tactics mid-fight. Worse, they never stopped coming. Even when injured, human soldiers would fight with one arm, one leg, or none at all, propped up in exosuits or rolling forward in automated gurney-mounted turrets. The Kareth High Warlord made a fateful decision: surrender the outer systems and consolidate Earth's response. They transmitted the coordinates of the Kareth capital, then showed live satellite footage of human fleets already en route. Aftermath and legacy. The war ended not with a treaty, but with silence. The Kareth abandoned their central command, worlds, disappearing into deep space. The Virellan Dominion, shaken but alive, began rebuilding. Human casualties numbered in the thousands, but they had prevented billions of deaths. In the years that followed, Earth didn't demand resources or territorial concessions. They didn't colonize Virellan worlds or install puppet governments. Instead, they left behind advisors, joint training bases, and supply chains. They taught logistics, infrastructure, and most importantly, survival. At a Galactic Assembly 10 cycles later, High Commander Tarsil summarized it best: When we asked for support, we expected empathy. The humans gave us victory. They delivered shock and awe, and they saved our civilization. What the galaxy learned. The lesson was clear to every species across the stars. Humans were not monsters. They were not warmongers or conquerors. But when they chose to act, they did so with terrifying efficiency. They didn't see wars as contests or rituals. They saw them as problems to be solved, with discipline, with precision, and with overwhelming force. So, in the future, when distress calls echo across the stars, civilizations remember one truth. If you want words, call the Council. If you want results, call Earth. 10. Ripples through the stars. In the months that followed, Earth's intervention. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Worlds that had once ignored humanity's ascent now watched with quiet anxiety. On the border worlds of the fragmented Valari clans, young warriors stopped boasting about tribal victories and started studying human tactics. The Andari hegemony, AI, longtime rival to the Virulans, began quietly restructuring.